First question goes that what actually got you into metal music at first place? Do you remember when you heard metal music for the first time?
Yeah, actually, it started when I was about 11, 12 years, and I heard, if I remember right, I think it was Mud or something, a band on a jukebox actually, and I really liked the song, and I put a coin into the jukebox and played the song over and over again. And then it took a couple of years, and I don't know, 12, 13, and I found the very first metal album was actually Judas Priest, Sad Wings of Destiny. So
Okay.
that's the moment where I was caught into that kind of music. You know, I've listened to Kiss and David Bowie and other Swedish artists before that, but when I heard the Sad Wings of Destiny album with Judas Priest, that's when I knew that this is something that I want to do when I'm a big boy.
What was in metal that sort of caught your attention?
Yeah, you know, yeah, the songs, the great songs, and of course, some kind of vocals has an appealing effect on me, and then I was pretty much in love with the way Rob Halford did the vocals. He was actually my hero for a couple of years, I can tell, and he was such a cool man. And you know, when I saw Judas Priest live the very first time, you know, we couldn't. Yeah, as you probably know, there were no YouTube clips back in time where you can watch your favorites. So the very first time I saw him and the band and all the great songs and his cool performance and the way his character and the vocals, I was sold actually. And I felt that this is really something to do.
So what made you become a vocalist? What kind of
Yeah,
story is like behind that?
the usual things. You know, we were, I don't know how old we were. We were 14, 15 years old, and I was actually late to a meeting, and when I arrived, all the other guys had picked the guitars and the drums and the bass and all the other instruments. So it was only vocals left.
Okay.
And I was actually thinking about playing guitar in the very beginning, and but it didn't turn out that, and I pretty much yeah, I enjoyed doing the vocals, so that was not a problem, and I could play guitar for myself at home, so uh, that's how it all started. You know, with I don't know what kind of songs we did in the very beginning, but I was very much into writing own things, writing over my own songs, and we did. In the very end, we didn't play any covers at all, actually. So pretty
Okay.
fast, we went to play our own material.
I was actually
And
going to ask you that were there like some certain covers when you started that you sort of covered and sort of
yeah,
tried to find your own way of singing?
yeah, I wasn't the only one in the band. So, you know, I think we started up with Thin Lizzy songs, something like that, when we started to play for the very first time. But as I said, pretty fast we wrote a couple of songs, and pretty a short while after that, we were just doing our own songs, actually. So I'm actually not a very big fan of doing covers. I've done I've done it once, twice in my whole life, actually. You know, when I'm actually writing songs, not for Candlemass, but for myself, and that's one thing that I really like about music is the writing, and that's very important, in my opinion. To otherwise, you can do a, what do you say, dance
Yeah.
band, stuff like that. But it's not my cup of tea to do covers, actually.
So when you started singing for the first time, were you sort of like mimicking your own idols, or were you like immediately trying to figure out like your own way to do things? Did you had some kind of, like you mentioned, like Rob Halford, but did you had some like vocalist that you sort of like looked up to when you started?
Yeah, I really looked up to Robert Halford in the very beginning, but my problem was that he's more high pitched than I am. I tried.
Yeah, he's quite difficult guy to follow with vocals.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course I try to maybe I try to copy stuff like that he did in the very beginning. But you know, after a while, you realize that you have to find something yourself, find your own vocals in a way. But of course, you are inspired of vocals, but I think I realized pretty fast that I can't be like Robert Halford. Robert Halford is Robert Halford, and I'm doing my best to be you one.
So did it take like a long time? Do you remember? Did it take a long time to figure out sort of like the right technique for the singing? Were you like losing your voice in the early days when you were sort of like pushing yourself too much with the singing?
Yeah, you know, that's the way you become a metal singer, in my opinion. You know, you desperately try to hear what you're singing when you're down rehearsing with the guys, because the guys, they wanted to have the guitars so very loud, and you have to scream to hear yourself through the drums and everything. So it's a good school to realize that you have to push yourself a lot and try to make your voice as loud as possible.
So do you remember that? Did it take like long time to figure out right way to do things? Do you feel that you were already there when you recorded, for example, the first Candlemass album with them?
Yeah, I think so. I knew that you can't feel sorry for doing the vocals and sing them quiet. You have to push, because of course it depends on the song. If it's a calm song, you have to walk into that song and do the vocals the way that song need them to be. But you know, you have to push when you're standing there with distorted guitars and things like that. But it gives you a great feeling of I don't know what it's all about, but it just feels awesome standing there doing the vocals, listening to all the heavy guitar riffs. So yeah.
So was that Epicus Doomicus Metallicus, was it like your first album that you ever recorded? And what kind of experience it was for you overall to be in the studio and recording the vocals?
Yeah, I don't know if I had done any demos in the studio before that, but it was, you know, when it was a very big thing to do, actually, just do a demo back in the 80s. You had to pay several thousand crowns just to make a demo, because it was so expensive. Not the way it is today. You know, I've got my own home studio these days, so I can record a song whenever I want. And it was a very big thing to actually record an album. Of course, it was. And you know, that was the very first time when I met the Candlemass guys. Was I nervous? Maybe I was. I don't remember exactly, but remember that I thought the music was a bit, you know, one chord music. So you have to make these heavy one tone riffs alive in a way. So that's maybe one of the reasons why I sang the way I did.
So did that sort of also change your like taste in music when you joined and did the vocals for the album? Was that sort of like a game changer to you in terms of your future?
No, not exactly. You know, that was a very special album back in 1986. It was actually not that many people that believed that anyone would like that album in the future. There were actually people laughing at the songs in the very beginning. So
Yeah, but that's always what happens when you are ahead of your time.
yeah. So yeah,
I guess
that's
that
the way
same
it
has
was.
happened also. Sorry to interrupt, but I guess that also has happened to like Black Sabbath when they were like recording their first album.
Yeah.
People were like thinking that what the fuck are those guys doing, basically.
Yeah. People weren't ready for that kind of music back then.
But were you listening to like around that time already similar bands like or
It was. I was a big fan of Rainbow as well, and Ronnie James Dio, Rainbow Rising, and Black Sabbath with Dio and Tony Martin later on, and then a couple of years later, I found Queensryche, their very first albums, Rage of Order and Operation Mindcrime. I find those records were very inspiring to me as well, actually.
So Sweet Evil Sun is the upcoming album from Candlemass. So are there like vocally some certain songs that you are like most proud of, that you feel that these are like the best on your like vocal performance?
I can't give there are calm parts on that record as well, and calm vocals can be cool under the right circumstances as well. So, but I'm ready to do it all. Actually, I'm not afraid to try out to push myself. And of course, there were in some songs that I had to push myself extremely. And but that's also what do you say? You find things in your own voice that you didn't know were there in the very beginning. If you're as comfortable and if you're comfortable and not afraid of doing mistakes, and you just have a lot of fun and playing around with your voice, you can reach limits that you didn't know exist, actually. So it's all about having fun in the very end, in my opinion, and I think it's a lot of fun trying out different kind of vocals.
So are you afraid that there's some song that if you perform it live that you won't be able to sort of do the vocals on a satisfying level?
Not afraid, I actually have a minor problem during the fall and winter time, being cold pretty much a lot of months. But so far, I've made it through those periods of the year, and that's the only thing that I was afraid. We did that tour with Ghost, and I was so cold the whole. I ate ingefära. Do you know ingefära? Some guy told me, it's a kind of root, or Chinese root or something.
Okay.
To try to desperately to keep the cold away. But anyway, we did it. So that's my only concern, being cold doing shows. But it works in a way, and I can get a bit distorted at some points, but if there is any kind of music that being a bit distorted is okay, it is in this kind of music. So no, I'm not worried.
So what kind of like memories do you have when it comes to like your very first full European tour? How was it like vocal wise? Did you had like a lot of difficulties to sort of sing like many nights in a row, or what kind of experience it was for you?
Yeah, I actually, we have got a very wise man doing the sound for us. Our sound engineer, Nakke from Denmark. He's an awesome guy, and he pretty much the very first time we met, he told me that that singers, they have to be very concerned about their voice when it comes to drinking and stuff like that. So I've been listening to him. So I'm taking it easy when it comes to drinking. Of course, can have a beer or two, but not actually nothing when it's showtime. That's important. He told me that, and I'm pretty sure that he's right. He had been out with so many artists, and they have had party nights, too many party nights, and all of a sudden the vocalists he can't sing anymore. So I just can't let that happen.
So are there like some other drinks that you mentioned, like alcohol, that you feel that it affects your voice somehow, that you don't want to have them before the show?
No, actually, I don't want, I'm not 20 anymore. I need to keep all the lyrics in my head for 1 hour and a half. So it's important for me to be very focused. And I actually wouldn't dare to drink before a show, because if I'm losing a lot of lines, that would be very embarrassing.
But there aren't like any other foods or drinks that you feel that they sort of affect your throat, for example, that you don't want to have like coffee before the show so it dries up your voice or something like that?
No, actually not. Yeah, there was another guy. He told me that it's good to have an apple before the show. Starts wetting up your mouth a bit, and I've tried that for a couple of times when I'm cold, and that works. But I haven't got any special things. I'm not do anything special before a show. Actually, I used to sing for 5 minutes before it all starts up, something like that. So
I was actually going to ask you next about that. Do you have some kind of like routines when it comes to like warming up before the show, or are you more of a guy that you go up on stage and warm up the voice like during the show?
yeah, pretty much during the show actually. And I used to run a couple just to get your heart beating a bit, and could make a couple of push-ups before I'm running into stage, something like that.
Well, usually sports sort of eases that because it gets the blood flowing, and it's easier for singing as well.
Yeah, in a way. And it's to what do you say? Try to give some adrenaline before it even starts, in a way.
So you have quite diverse voice. So I was wondering that, have you ever taken like any vocal lessons?
Not a single one, actually.
Okay, so you have just self-learned.
I actually have never considered myself as a good singer or a professional singer. I'm singing to my own stuff, and I'm singing the Candlemass song, and that's. But of course, I like doing vocals, but it's nothing that I've been working on hard to be a very good singer in one way or another. I take each song as they come and try to do my very best. It's not. That's just the way it is.
Do you remember what kind of like comments you got from your parents when you first started singing like more metal stuff? What were like their reactions towards it?
Actually, my parents were divorced pretty early in my life, so they didn't know about my music in the very beginning at all, actually. So no, and the only one in my family was my grandfather. He was a musician playing, I don't know what you call it, dragspel in Swedish. Do you know what that is in English?
No,
neither do I. He was doing some guitars as well. So there are no others in my family playing music the way I am. They are maybe listening to music, but not that. hooked on doing something. Of course, I've done a couple of things with in school when they were young. We recorded some rap music so they could bring it to school and show their friends.
Okay. Quite diverse music compared to like doom metal, so that's like
yeah, but you know,
worlds.
it's not my kind of music. But you know, they're grown ups now. But they, you know, when the rap and stuff came in the very beginning, all the kids wanted to do something like that, and they did. So I wrote a couple of rap songs that they sang on, and they did actually did a pretty good job. So. That was just a thing for the fun and for them.
Last question around this. Any kind of advice that you would like to give to a young metal vocalist who is just about to start the journey? Do you have any kind of advice that you could give?
Yeah, I think so. In a way, you have to be honest to yourself, and of course, you can try to copy your favorite vocalist, but try to find your own style and work on that one before. So you don't lose yourself trying to be someone else. It's important to do your own thing and be ready to work hard, because nothing comes for free. There are so many musicians. For me, for example, you know, I've been into music all of my life in one way or another, but to be successful takes a lot of work, and work hard and watch the goal and dream about it and do whatever it takes to reach there one day. And don't get disappointed if it doesn't happen right away. So keep on working hard, and one day you'll reach what you're searching for. I think so.
Hey, Johan, thanks a lot.
And don't be afraid to write your own songs if you're able to do that. It's hard work, but when you've done that the very first time, and you will probably feel very good about it.
Hey, thanks a lot, Johan, for the chat, and all the best for the release of the upcoming album, Sweet Evil Sun. Anything you want to say as a closer to the fans?
Yeah, I can say that I actually grew up with a lot of people from Finland here in Sweden. And I've been to Finland, I've been to Varkaus, I've been to Rovaniemi, and I'm looking back to play in Finland again. We were there a couple of months. This summer we were in Finland, and I would love to come back.
Hey, thanks a lot for the chat. It was a pleasure to talk about and learn more about your vocals.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Arto, for calling me up.
Hey, and enjoy the release of the album. It's next week, so.
Yeah, I will. We're working hard on it, and we will do our best to make it successful. Let's hope so. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Take care.
You too, Arto. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.